Hey guys, this is Mel, and I'm back to talk about The Flash. 3 episodes this time. Episode 519, titled Snowpack, 520, titled Gone Rogue, and 521, titled The Girl with the Red Lightning Tattoo, all premiering April 23rd, April 30th, and May 7th, 2019, respectively. I'm recording this on May 11th. It's been a few days since 521 has aired. I've just been super busy. I couldn't get time to actually record for 3 episodes, but I'm back now. So huge spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the 3, please go do so first and then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. There's a lot that I have to say about them, so I hope you tune in for that. But otherwise, I'm going to try to do this in 30 minutes, so let's start the clock and let's begin with what happened with these episodes. So timeline wise, 519 takes off immediately from 518. It's just after Barry has returned for 2049 after he left Nora in her proper time. 520 takes place shortly after 519 because the team is still looking for Nora, who had returned at the end of 519. So there's that. And 521, I believe, is taking place later on in the day from the events of 520 because Barry made a specific reference in the episode that Nora's last Red Lightning appearance happened earlier in that day, and the whole Red Lightning thing that they saw her having was dealt in 520. So that's kind of where my reasoning comes from. So moving on to a main plot reminder for 519, Icicle's return, aka Caitlyn's father. 520, it was we get a reverse rogue Nora, so the Red Lightning Nora, and the return of the Rogue Gallery, I believe, or the Young Rogues. And then 521 is we get not only Cicada making her final move, and then we also find out about Thawne's true plan and like why everything coming full circle in explanation as to why he was helping Nora in the first place. So there's that. So most shocking moment of the episodes. For 519, it has to be the fact that during Caitlyn's reunion with her family, Cicada Grace interrupted that. I wasn't expecting her to pop in when she did. And also, I didn't expect for myself to cry when Thomas Snow died. I think it was just more from the emotion over the fact that Caitlyn just got her true father back, only to lose him shortly afterwards when he sacrificed himself to save her from Cicada Grace. So that was just heartbreaking because this season has been a lot about Caitlyn trying to find answers, and then like the first part of the season was her trying to find her father, so it was just very shocking that it came to that end. So there's that. For 520, the most shocking moment ended up being that Nora wasn't evil from the negative Speed Force like the promos had led to believe. It turned out that in order for her to access the negative Speed Force, her headspace just had to be dark when she wanted to use that source of speed. But her whole motives in the episode were to get the mirror gun that was supposed to help with the Cicada issue. So she wasn't completely going off the book, I guess you could say. And for 521, the most shocking moment was the fact that, spoiler right here, Thawne is actually trapped by Cicada's dagger. So that vest that Thawne's been wearing while he's in his cell, that vest is holding Cicada's dagger. So that is what's suppressing his speed. So that's something there, which was a shock, but it also makes sense as to why future Cicada Grace never had the dagger the first time. And it's because Thawne had it stuck on him for the last 15 years. So there's that. But let's move on to the storylines for the episode. Again, splitting them into 3 different parts, story A, B, and C. Storyline A usually dealt with the episode-centric ones. Story B deals with Cicada of some kind, and episode C deals with anything related to the future. So there's that. So let's get right into it. For 519, for their storyline A, I would have to say was Icicle returning. This particularly dealt with, again, Icicle returning and trying to turn Carla Townhauser, aka Caitlyn's mom, into a meta. He is successful, but the team doesn't know it because it had delay effects. So it'll be interesting to see that develop. We also see Thomas defeating Icicle when Icicle is about to kill Caitlyn. And then we see a face-off between Cicada Grace and Killer Frost. This is where Thomas sacrifices himself to save Caitlyn from Cicada Grace. And while all this sacrifice is happening, Barry witnesses this and learns the Thomas's quote, "A family shouldn't leave family," in his last dying moments, which relates to him dealing with his own family drama with Nora and Iris. So that's with 519. Now 520, the episode-centric storyline was Young Rogue's return, I'm calling it. So we get Nora recruiting Weather Witch, Ragdoll, and the Bug-Eyed Bandit, or Queen Bee, to help her steal weapons. That one weapon meant to one of the weapons meant to be the one thing that was capable of destroying Cicada's dagger, which was the mirror gun. And then, while all this was happening, the team's trying to figure out, is Nora dark side? What's she doing? Why is she tapping in negative speed force? And then we see Iris working with Cecile to try to figure out why Nora was targeting this specific weapons depot. Barry gets advice from Joe about Nora and how he should deal with her and her involvement with Thawne. And then we also see Sherlock and Cisco being taken hostage by the young rogues. And Nora used the vibrating hand, which I'll bring up later. So there's that. Now, with 521, the centric episode of storyline was curing a crowd, I'm calling it. So here we see Joe overseeing the CCPD makeshift clinic that Caitlin's running to administer the metahuman cure. And we also see Joe struggling with the leadership responsibility since Captain Singh is at City Hall trying to get approval for this clinic. So there's that. So storyline B, aka the Cicada storylines for 519, we just see Cicada Grace kidnapping her own kid self from the hospital to ensure that she's good to go, but she's still in a coma. So there's that. For 520, for 520, we don't really see Cicada Grace, but we do find out that she broke into a Tannhauser Black site and she stole the prototype versions of the cure, and she plans to use it to weaponize that first stages of the cure, which could kill a meta instead of curing them, and with the cryoatomizer that she stole in 519 from Icicle, and use it to kill metahumans. She's turning that prototype cure into a virus. So there's that. And for 521, it's weaponizing a cure. So this is where we see Team Flash trying to stop Cicada Grace from unleashing the virus at CCPD. We also see Nora is mentally connected to Grace. Grace's rage is fueling the red lightning to appear in Nora whenever she taps into that. So there's that, which kind of has a little bit of like unforeseen lightning attacks if she's not contained or controlled during those moments. So there's that. So storyline C, dealing with any future component, which is essentially Thawne and Nora. So with 519, I've got two different ones, distinct ones dealing with this. We have the West Allen woes, I'm calling, and the negative speed force. So with West Allen woes, we see Barry and Iris arguing over Barry's actions to return Nora to the future without talking to Iris about it. We also see Iris going to the future with Ralph to go get Nora, but in doing so, Iris sees Thawne's interaction with Nora, making her believe that Thawne has come to care for Nora despite manipulating her. So there is that, which has her kind of down in like what's he trying to do type of thing. Now with the negative speed force, we see Nora training to use the negative speed force, which is the one Thawne created himself to avoid detection from other speedsters who use the regular speed force. Now it's Nora's rage against Barry that is what starts her on the journey into using the negative speed force. Now she comes out in 2019 with supercharged negative speed force energy and red lightning all around her with her purple lightning, as well as glowing red eyes, which is very signature to the Reverse Flash. So there's that. She pretty much created herself into a mini Reverse Flash, right? So there's that. Now with 520, for this, Thawne isn't shown in the episode, but we do see Barry struggling to accept Nora following Thawne's plan, because it was Thawne's plan about the mirror gun before Barry realized that the plan could actually be the only thing that could work against Cicada and the dagger. So he decides to reluctantly go with it because he wants to get rid of that dagger once and for all. So there's that. Now 521, this is where we see Thawne's timer run out. So he has been locked up for 15 years. He's electrocuted one last time in his cell before this death row chair, this futuristic looking one, comes in, and Thawne gets himself strapped in during his final moments. And it's in this final moments that we actually see them remove the vest and show that the dagger is actually strapped to his chest, which is why he's not able to speed away and escape, because the dagger won't allow him. So there's that. Moving on to main tidbits now, though. For 519, I have Cisco not showing in the episode because he's apparently away on Earth 19 to consult with Breacher about a way to locate Cicada Grace. We also have Cicada Grace kidnapping, which I did mention beforehand. We have Sherlock also getting ready to leave the team, thinking like with their anger he's not wanted anymore, before Barry goes into cardiac arrest after Icicle's attack, so Sherlock instead goes to save Barry. We also see Ralph discovering the time vault for the first time, which I'm kind of surprised he hasn't already. And then we also see Ralph starting to work with Cecile about finding Cicada Grace before Iris had her trip to the future derailed, which Ralph tagged along with. So there's that. Now with 520, the main tidbits are Nora was using Gideon like Thawne did when he first arrived to our time with the hologram gauntlet. So that's a little trip down memory lane. We also, again, trip down memory lane with Nora threatening Siskel with the vibrating hand, taking a page out of Thawne's book. I don't know if does she realize she did that or something? I don't know. We also have Sherlock knowing how to escape restraints easily, at least faster than Cisco can. We do see Renee Adler being brought up. Sherlock doesn't understand emoji text talk with her, so that's funny there. We also see Sherlock questioning Siskel about whether he's satisfied with being a metahuman, aka Vibe. We also see, in a way, Killer Frost mourning the death of Thomas Snow, aka the father. We also see Siskel being done with the Book of Ralph. And we also see Ralph confiding in Caitlin about how he doesn't think he's built for love, which she very highly disagrees. And they had a cute, awkward moment, which I'll bring up later. For 521, the main tidbits, I would say, would be Sherlock sending Renee Adler to his original Earth, which is still not specified, when she refuses to relinquish her powers out of fear of Cicada coming after her again. We also see Nora connecting, or I already mentioned Nora connecting with Grace. We also see Nora confronting her parents about treating her like an adult and not like a child. Although you gotta give them credit, because the fact that she just showed up on their doorstep as an adult, so like it's gonna be a hard transition. Anyways, last scenes of the episodes. For 519, the last scene was Cicada Grace returning to Kid Grace with the cryo atomizer in the cabin in the woods. 520's last scene was Cicada Grace reciting an old nursery rhyme while she was working on the cryo atomizer, and then we see a hallucination of Orland Cicada reciting the rhyme with her just over her shoulder. So don't know what that means for the hallucination, if that's always been going on with her and that's kind of where part of her rage is coming from, or if maybe he just started appearing and that's more of like a brain thing that's happening. Who knows? But it's not cool. And 521's last scene was Ralph trying to stop Barry from destroying the dagger after realizing that was Thawne's plan the whole time. And then we see the reveal that Thawne had the dagger strapped to him as being his prison. So there's that. But let's move on to top favorite moments for me. For 519, I'd have to say Barry and Caitlin were my huge favorite in the episode. Specifically Barry being stuck. The moment in the lab where with Caitlin and Carla arguing over the correct device to use, and Barry's just stuck in the middle, and the two ladies kept looking between him, telling him which part to do, and Barry's just looking. It's like, and then he looks again. It's like he's looking at saying like, "What do I do? I don't know what to do." It's very adorable to see, because he's just so lost and out of place. It's like, I don't know how to react to this. And then it was just like, I'm gonna get both. I don't want to upset both of you. And then like, it's like he can't pick one of them because then it'll upset the other. And it's just like, it was funny. And then also another thing I like was just Barry's reaction to Caitlin being kidnapped once again. He's very unhinged, if you realize this, and it's always when Caitlin is kidnapped. It's not the first time. It's just like, I appreciate the immediate reaction he has to it. And I don't know if he's more unhinged than usual because of what's been going on with him and Iris and their fighting and stuff, and how like he's lost that part of the support, and then how he is also having issues with Nora, and then Cisco's gone, and so it seems like it's all falling to him, and the one person you can count on, it's kind of the one he is trying to find. So it's very interesting to see Barry kind of like tumble even further unhinged with Caitlin not being there. I know that sounds bad, but it's just like, because I do like Barry and Caitlin's interactions with each other. Don't take it out on me if you are a West Allen fan. They do have their moments, but I just prefer Snowberry better. But that's kind of why. And they rarely do have interactions one-on-one together. I have noticed. So it's like, once they do have one from time to time, it's like, yes, I hope I like it. I end up doing. So there's that. Another favorite I did have for the episode was just the snowpack, so aka Caitlin's family. It was great to see Caitlin reunited with Thomas and not icicle. And it was just great to see Caitlin offer to go grab a coffee with her mom, who she's been estranged with for so long, and her agreeing. So it's just great to see that even though she lost her father, she's on the journey to mend things with her mom. And then we also see the possibility of her mom also being a meta with probably her own alter ego like Killer Frost. So it was very interesting to see and learn a little bit more about the Snow family and like the dynamics and like what brought them to that point. So that was pretty cool there. And another favorite I did have, again, West Island fans are going to hate me. Please don't. But it was Barry's argument with Iris. I do have a love-hate thing about this because, first off, it's a favorite because it was very emotionally fueled argument. It was very well done performance between Grant and Candace. So I'll give them props for that too. Also, it's a favorite because I like that during the argument when Iris is trying to blame everything on Barry, I really love that Barry didn't just stand there. He also kind of pinned it back on her, saying that kind of like if he was the one acting emotionally about Nora's betrayal, then he was telling Iris to, well, just look in the mirror because she's also acting emotionally about getting her back. And I just love that he also kind of threw it back to the fact, well, if I'm being emotional, so are you. You can't just pin it all on me. You have to take a step back if you expect me to take a step back type of thing. So that was kind of like what I was getting at. And I was just like, her reaction to that, I feel like when I saw it for the first time, it was like, did she realize that that's what she's doing? Was that the moment that she realized that like, oh, maybe he's right about this? Or was that a reaction more like, I can't believe you said that? But then to be fair though, one of my peeves, which I'll talk about my peeves, but again, it ties into the argument. So we'll be right back for that. But let's move on to 520, my favorite moments for the episode. First one being Barry and Cisco being concerned for Caitlin when she's still grieving over her father. It was just great to see the two of them immediately checking in with her friend. And like she's like, no, I'm good. I'd rather be here, which is understandable. But as like I appreciate that they took that moment of screen time to address the fact that like it's a still fresh wound for her. So I do appreciate that. So that's why it's my favorite. Another favorite was Caitlin and Ralph, specifically with Caitlin complimenting Ralph and telling him, no, you are built for love, and listing all the ways that he has shown he's able to. It was just a great moment for her to show just how much she's observed about Ralph and come to realize in the last 2 years. And then it was just funny when he made it awkward saying like, I don't feel that way for her. And then her reaction was like, ew, no, you idiot type of thing, like kind of establishing the fact that they are just friends, which was great. But I do appreciate her trying to tell him like, no, don't believe that you're not built for love. You are, you just haven't found the right person, but you are. And then listing all the ways that he is capable of showing love. So I do appreciate that. It's something I think he needed to hear, and I'm great that it served a dual purpose. So there's that. Another favorite I did have was Cisco's reaction to recognizing all the rogues that kidnapped him. It was just a great comedic moment. It's just like, he just lightens up a dark situation. So I did appreciate that. It was just funny. So I'm going to leave it with that. And also, I did like Barry getting advice from Joe about Nora. I always like those scenes between Barry and Joe. I feel like it's definitely brought a lot of insight because Joe can bring it on the aspect of a professional standpoint, a personal standpoint, specifically because Barry is both those things. He has grown to be a son to him, and also on the one hand, he works on him on two professional standpoints. So it's like that kind of like go across being what's right and what is right and by the book, or doing what's right for the person, that's like being a father first or being a cop first type of thing. So it was very interesting to get that type of perspective. It was very interesting for Barry to kind of see the parallel with that. So that's pretty cool there. And another cool favorite I had was the reveal that Barry, Iris, and Joe were posing as the security guard with use from I think it's HR's face modulator or scrambler that we got in season 3. So that was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that. So there was that. Now for 521, really, I had a lot of issues with this episode, but the only favorite I truly had was the fact that Ralph wanted to uncover Thawne's plan so much, and thankfully he did realize the importance of the dagger to Thawne, the fact that destroying the dagger could ultimately set Thawne free and maybe erase I don't know, would that erase his 15 years of imprisonment because of the dagger? Yeah, right. So it was great to see Ralph just not settling on like he wanted to find the mystery. And I truly, I love the way he did it. I love that he just wanted to be heard. And he's like, please, like, and he was trying to explain it too, and just really had me going into something else I'll talk about later. But I just like, it was Ralph's moment to shine, and I hope he was able to deliver the theory that he came up with. So I'll leave it at that, because really that's the only fave I had that stands out. And you'll know why when we talk about top peeved moments that I have. So for 519, a peeve I had, again, it starts with that argument with Barry and Iris at the very beginning of the episode. The peeve I had was the fact that Iris confessed that she had no issue with Nora going and working with Thawne. I felt like it was such a breach of trust and loyalty, because she pretty much just confessed the fact that she doesn't care that her own daughter turned to the man that killed her mother-in-law, pretty much, her husband's mom. And she, like, had no qualm about it. So it's just, like, I felt that, like, it was for Barry, that was a huge slap in the face. I mean, for the last 5 years, we've seen how much, well, for us, for 5 years, we've seen how much the idea of Thawne has tormented and really damaged Barry in many different, or not damaged, really harmed Barry in many different ways, subconsciously, how he reacts to things, how he sees things. And then for Nora, who's known him since they were 11, so for them, it's been 15 years. She's seen what the effect of his mom's death has done to him, and yet to have her say that she doesn't care that their daughter is working with a man who caused that much pain to Barry, that was just like, no, that's not something you do. You not only broke the trust from Barry, but the fact that you'd rather side with your daughter, which is understandable, but the fact that you'd rather side with her choice to work with a man that pretty much broke your husband's heart for so many years is just like, no. That was like, that's not something I could ever forgive. And it was just like, that's not a support system you should have. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just, in that moment, I felt when she said it and he realized just what she said, I immediately kept thinking, like, she did not just say that. I could not believe that she had said that. So that is something there. Another peeve that I had for the episode was the fact that Nora was blinded by Thawne's manipulations of her. I mean, he's pretty much making her into the next Reverse Flash, continuing his own legacy if she doesn't manage to break him free. As we realize now, that's what he's trying to get her to do. And then, like, that's only gonna, plus also you can easily see that by him converting Nora to his side, that is ultimately gonna hurt Barry even further, which is what he's trying to doing his whole life, right? When he realized he couldn't become the Flash. So it's just like, it's really annoying that she can't see it after even finding out all the things that Thawne has done to her father and to the rest of her family. It was just like, it was such an annoyance there. Plus also the fact that another peeve that annoyed me was the fact that while Barry left Nora in her present day in 2049, he left her there, and her last moments with him was her begging him to let her come back and that she'll promise not to contact Thawne. She'll not do anything. And yet the moment that Barry leaves, she goes running to Thawne. It's like, you couldn't even keep your word, right? It's like, forget the fact that, okay, your father is now back in his time in 2019. He's not going to find out that you went back to Thawne. It's like, no. Principle of the matter was, you gave your word that you wouldn't go see him, and yet you go and see him. And not only that, you pretty much sulk and sit by his cell, seeking for like a presence of comfort type of thing. It's just like such annoying to see that. It's just like, I'm over it. But it still fuels that anger in me, so there's that. And then another peeve was the fact that I'm very annoyed by the lack of continuity with the timeline, and I'll get into that in later on peeve, so hold tight about that. Or I'll bring that up in questions, I'm just realizing, because I got a big chunk of it there. But 520, my big peeve for it was the fact that when Barry and Cisco were talking to Caitlin about taking some time off to grieve for her father, in that exact same frame that you see Barry and Cisco looking in Caitlin's direction, and I believe you still see Caitlin's backside in the very side of the frame, Iris is also featured in the frame, and she's not looking in the same direction Barry and Cisco are towards Caitlin. She's staring off somewhere like as if like I'm not listening, I'm avoiding contact. And I just felt that was completely rude. I mean, you have two of the three characters in the same frame looking in the same direction to acknowledge the person they're talking to, and then you have the third person, aka Iris, who's just looking elsewhere as if like I'm not part of this conversation, I have no care in the world type of thing. And because it was such a close-up, because it was such a tight frame on Barry and Cisco, because Iris was between them, it's just like you couldn't escape it. So it's like, what are you doing? That's highlighting your rudeness. It's just like, no, that was a huge P, because it just showed some like level of disrespect. And it's just like, wow. So that's another mark against Iris there. So there's that. Now for 521, a peeve I did have was that Team Flash ignoring Ralph's concerns about Thawne. Sorry. It was mainly like when Ralph was trying to get the team to like take a moment to like just think what Thawne's plan was, because like it does matter. They're just like, no, that's not something, like we have to focus on stopping Cicada. Them not realizing that they could inadvertently do what Thawne has been wanting them to do the whole time. So it's just, it really frustrated me that the team kept on dismissing Ralph's concerns and attempts to try to get them to listen to him for a moment. I mean, it doesn't take long to listen to him when they had no other leads to find Cicada, right? Like, it doesn't hurt. So that was annoyance there. And another peeve I had was the fact that Team Flash in the CCPD fight scene decided to fight the normal way, the human way, against Cicada Grace instead of using their abilities against her. Because again, this is the part where the dagger was with Cisco and he was trying to deactivate the cryo atomizer. So Caitlin, or Killer Frost, Barry, and Ralph still had their powers when they were fighting against Cicada Grace. So I don't understand why Barry couldn't use his speed to flash on some of those meta-dampening cuffs onto Cicada Grace and kind of make her powerless there. I don't understand why Killer Frost couldn't use her powers to blast Cicada Grace into a place from a distance and keep her frozen there. Why does she have to make the ice knives and go into a close hand-to-hand combat with her? I don't understand why that. Also, why couldn't Ralph use his abilities to stretch himself out to restrain Cicada Grace so that she couldn't move her hands, so she couldn't use her powers in that sense, like he did with that huge museum dinosaur? Didn't he do that at one point? So it's like, I don't understand why they couldn't use their unique skill sets with their abilities to stop Cicada Grace. Why did they have to go the mundane and do knife scenes? Why did they have to do punches? Why couldn't they use the speed, use the ice blast, and use the flexibility to their advantage? So that's a huge peeve I had, because like a lot of the things with the show is that if you have a speedster on the team, snap of your fingers and you're done against the enemy, unless you get rid of that speed like Cicada had done in the first portion of the season. Then it's understandable as why you had to go a little longer route to stop her. So it's just like, why are you taking the long route when there's a shorter route to put an end to it, right? So, and it saves time. So it's just like, that was a huge annoyance for me there. So there's that. So now on to the questions. I've got a lot according to my list. So with 519, let's start with that. The first question was, if Carla Tannhauser is showing signs of being a meta, does that mean that she will develop her own dual personality like Killer Frost or Icicle, or will she be a meta with different powers? Will that bring her and Caitlin closer together, and will we see this progress over time? I hope so, but let's wait and see for that. Another question was, did Thawne always have the negative speed force? If that's the case, if he used that to make sure that other speedsters couldn't detect him using it, then why was the Black Flash from the Speed Force able to chase after him in Season 2 of Legends of Tomorrow when he wasn't supposed to exist if he always used the negative Speed Force where the Speed Force couldn't track him? And that's another thing there. And the third question, because Carla Tannhauser is played by Susan Walters, does anyone else get any Flash Vampire Diary crossover vibes because Susan also plays Carol Lockwood? I mean, could you totally see twin sisters Carla and Carol Downhauser, and that would make Caitlin Snow the older cousin to Tyler Lockwood? I mean, has anyone else pictured it? Because that's kind of where my head was going every time Carla comes on scene again. So there's that right there. But let's go to 520 questions right there. I got about 6 of them. First one, can Nora switch between using the Speed Force and using the negative Speed Force? I mean, it was kind of answered in 521. It was kind of an issue, but it seemed like something they had to fuse out of her when it came to the negative Speed Force. I have no idea. Someone please clarify that for me. Second one, will there be lasting consequences to Nora using the negative Speed Force? Third one, I thought that at the end of 519, Iris knew from Thawne that Nora was using his method of speed, yet at the start of this episode, Iris and the team behaved like they weren't aware of this. Is that right for me to assume? Was there something I missed? Please let me know as well. Another one, what progress has Sherlock had with Renee Aldner? Because I think there's only one other episode we've seen him actually interacting with her. And then, like, she's just kind of mentioned here or there, I think. So it's like, what other progress has he had with her? Like, I have no idea. Next question. What time travel rules apply to this show? And I'll actually tie that back over because that's a major one I want to talk about for 521. So we'll tie that back over there. And another question. Why wasn't Cisco's visit to see Breacher in 519 not mentioned in this episode? Did he learn any from that trip? Did he not? I want to see if that trip had a purpose or if it panned out the way that I hoped. Otherwise, or did I miss something? I don't know. Otherwise, it would have been like another waste for him to be away from the events. So there's that. Now let's go to 521 questions. It's just one massive question, and I really want to get into it. And thankfully, timer's done, so I can focus on it. But the question is, what time travel rules are we falling under when it comes to the Flash? Because there have been signs of rules that we are following the alternate timeline, and then there are moments where there are rules of following a continuous timeline being present in regards to the fact that any present day action taken done in the past affects the future. So I'm wondering, which set of rules are we supposed to be following in regards to the timeline? Because when it comes to alternate timelines, I do have a few moments where we see that. So alternate timeline, we do see like Thawne killing Nora Allen, for instance, which ultimately left moving forward the creation of the Flash to 2014 instead of later on when it was supposed to. I think it was like 2020 or something. I don't know. But that was one thing there. Thawne coming from one timeline, killing Nora, and then creating a new timeline right there. So that's one there. Another instance is Eddie's death erasing Thawne's existence from the timeline, and yet Thawne still exists, even though he's not supposed to with Eddie's death. So that's another one there. Flashpoint itself is an alternate timeline because when they saved Nora Allen, that created a new timeline for Barry to live out of. And if he stayed there long enough, that version of Barry would have merged with our original version of Barry. So there's that. Cisco's vibes itself is able to see alternate timelines. So if someone goes back in times and change something, he still sees flashes of that old timeline. Example is many first dates with Camilla. So there's that, or when Reverse Flash killed him in season 1 and then time was reversed and he wasn't. So that's an example there. And another example of alternate timelines is the fact that Nora's memories of her parents, specifically of parent Iris, I'm going to call it, there's no evidence of them seeming to have changed, even though Nora has interacted with young Iris, making her aware of what her future self is going to do in regards to Nora. So I would assume the moment that Iris realizes what her future self did to Nora, knowing that is going to change the action she does to Nora when Nora does become born. So in that case, shouldn't Nora's memories of Iris then be changed to account for young Iris making different decisions than what the original future Iris had done? So like the fact that Nora is not experiencing those changes in memories when it comes to adult Iris or parent Iris has me thinking that Nora created her own timeline when she interacted with her young version of her family, and now that's a different timeline to what she's going to. So that's something there. Now we have a few moments of us seeing one continuous timeline happening, or suggesting one continuous timeline is taking place for the show. One being Eddie's death actually erasing Thawne's existence, which we do see in the season 1 finale. Like in real time, we see Eddie dying out and then Thawne actually disintegrating and ceasing to exist. We also we see the same thing with Savitar, when saving Iris meant eliminating the existence of Savitar to begin with, and in real time we do see him trying to escape that paradox and his fate, and we do see her kind of killing him and then him just disappearing and not being a body left there. So there's that. Another thing was the founding of the Central City Citizen, which is Iris's newspaper, and the fact that Nora shows holographic evidence of the paper's original founding being in 2029, and then Barry and Iris see it actually change before their eyes to founded in 2019, showing that what they did had affected Nora's future, it being the one timeline type thing, right? And then another thing is the assumption that if we destroy the present dagger in 2019, that means it's going to affect the placement of the future dagger, which is keeping Thawne in prison. So if they destroyed the 2019 dagger, that means there should not be a 2049 dagger that is keeping Thawne in prison, which means Thawne would never be held in a prison, or he could escape in that moment, or does that erase his 15 years of imprisonment, which would change Nora's entire future, right? But they're implying the fact that if they get rid of the dagger, then that means Thawne won't be, or Thawne is under the impression that they get rid of the dagger and destroy it. That means there's nothing to stop him from getting imprisoned beforehand, or there's nothing holding him back. But then if this was actually another alternate timeline, then it wouldn't matter if they destroyed the dagger, because Thawne is already imprisoned in the previous timeline. Like, you know what I mean? Do you understand where I'm getting the confusion from when it comes to which rules of time travel we are dealing with? Because we have a bunch of moments in the series where it supports the alternate timeline theory, and then we have a bunch of other moments that support the fact that there's only one timeline, and things are constantly changing every time they either travel forward or backward in time. So it leads me, plus also, for another thing as well that is suggesting a one single timeline is the fact that Nora is able to continuously go back to 2049 between 2019, especially when she's making these changes. Now, if she was in alternate reality, she shouldn't be able to travel to her original 2049. Every time she goes back to 2019 and interacts or changes something, it should be a different version of 2049 that she returns to every single time. That is the continuous timeline method. But the fact that she's able to do that would suggest that it's an alternate timeline. I have no idea. I'm still confused. The more I talk about it, the more confused I get, and it causes me to have a headache. So if anyone has an understanding or any actual idea of which set of rules we're supposed to follow by, please let me know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to predictions. It's going to be quick, I promise you, because with the 5/22 promo, which is the season finale, we see Cicada Grace targeting the Flash family, and we also see Thawne's execution drawing near. Promotion pictures do show Barry going up against the Reverse Flash once again, so there's that. The synopsis, though, for the finale reads that Barry faces off with his oldest and most formidable nemesis, Reverse Flash. That's a huge giveaway right there. So, like, if you hadn't seen 5/21 first and you read the synopsis for that, then you kind of like, that kind of gives it away, doesn't it? It's like, wow. But anyways, that is pretty much it. I'm a little bit talked out now. I'm definitely going over, I really don't want to make it over 40. So, please, if you like this video, subscribe to my channel, check my other videos if you haven't done so already. Please comment if you have any answers for any of the questions I had, or you can point me somewhere that I can get answers, or just please shed some light and make me understand this timeline thing. I really need help. I feel like it's the Savitar loop all over again for me, trying to figure out what happened or which way first. It's like, I don't know. So there's that. But otherwise, don't forget to, if you want, check out my Tumblr page. The link for that is down below. Anything, I read blog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all that good stuff. I'll find it in one place. Go check it out. WordPress account, link for that is down below. Anything I post online is connected to my WordPress account, so check that out. It's more organized, more detailed, but still a work in progress. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope, and thank you so much for putting up with my huge rant in this video. But I do hope you come back next week to see what I have to say about the season finale. But until then, guys, this is Mel. Wishing you all a great day, great week wherever you are. Bye for now.